So, have you ever heard of the Inchamaree liability standard? I know, it sounds like something straight out of an old-timey novel, right? But believe it or not, this kind of obscure legal term is one of the invisible engines that powers our entire modern world. It's a wild story about how one tiny mistake on a steamship, way back when, makes sure the package you ordered yesterday can safely cross an ocean and get right to your door. Let's dive in. It's a weird question, isn't it? I mean, what on earth could some rusty Victorian-era pump possibly have to do with the super complex, high-tech logistics that brings stuff to your house? Well, it turns out that broken pump created a huge legal crisis. And the solution to that crisis? It's what quietly underpins the entire global supply chain we all rely on. And the story starts with a very, very strange name. Okay, so before we get into all the legal drama, we gotta tackle the name itself. Inchamaree. It's a word that's kind of hard to forget, but where does it even come from? Well, the origin is probably not what you're thinking. Your first thought might be, it's a place, right? Maybe a castle in Scotland or some misty town in Ireland. Or, hey, maybe it was the name of a famous judge. The truth, though, is way more specific. The name Inchamaree isn't from a place or a person. It's from a thing. A single steamship that got tangled up in a very, very expensive legal fight. All right, let's set the scene. Picture this. It's the late 19th century, the golden age of steam. Global trade is just exploding, and these giant iron ships are the workhorses making it all happen. But, with new tech comes new, totally unforeseen problems. So the whole saga kicked off with something surprisingly mundane. Back in 1884, a small water pump on the SS Inchamaree failed. A crew member had accidentally closed a valve, the pump kept chugging along, and it ended up wrecking itself and the ship's main boilers. There was no big storm, no dramatic crash, just a simple mechanical failure because of a simple mistake. So the owners filed an insurance claim, thinking, no big deal. Oh boy, were they wrong. That tiny mistake sent them all the way to the highest court in the land. And when the court finally made its decision, it sent absolute shockwaves through the entire shipping and insurance industry. It basically revealed this massive, and until then, totally unnoticed hole in how marine insurance even worked. And this right here, this was the heart of the whole problem. The court ruled that traditional marine insurance was for perils of the sea, stuff like hurricanes, running aground, or crashing into another ship. But this incident, they argued, was totally different. It was an internal failure, something that happened because of simple negligence by the crew. It wasn't a risk from the sea, it was a risk that just happened to be on the sea. And guess what? The standard policy just didn't cover that. So all of a sudden, ship owners were completely exposed. Think of it like this. Your car insurance covers you if you get in a crash, but it doesn't cover you if your engine just decides to crack because of some hidden flaw. For an industry built on these gigantic, complex machines, this was a terrifying thought. Well, you can't just have a giant gaping risk like that sitting out in the open. The insurance industry hates that, so they responded directly by creating a brand new piece of the insurance puzzle. And the solution was, get this, named after the very ship that caused the problem in the first place. The Inchamaree clause was specifically written to plug the exact hole that the court case had just blown wide open. It adds coverage for exactly the kinds of things that sank the original insurance claim, stuff like hidden defects and, you guessed it, crew negligence. You can really see the massive change right here. Before this whole thing, you were covered for the big, dramatic disasters, the perils of the sea. But with the Inchamaree clause added, coverage expanded to include all those internal operational risks, the human errors and the hidden mechanical flaws that are just, part of the deal when you're running a complex machine like a ship. So let's get specific for a second. What are we actually talking about? Well, exactly what happened on the ship, negligence. But it also covers latent defects, tiny hidden cracks in the hull or machinery you'd never be able to spot. Things like boilers bursting or propeller shafts just snapping. Even accidents that happen in port while loading or unloading cargo. These are all the real-world risks of doing business that are now covered, all thanks to this one clause. Okay, so how did this one little legal fix from the 1880s become a fundamental pillar of our modern world? Well, this isn't just a history lesson. Its legacy is something that directly affects you, me, and the entire global economy every single day. $14 trillion. Just let that number sink in. That's the mind-boggling scale of the global economy that is floating on the world's oceans every single year. From the phone in your hand to the food on your table, pretty much everything you own probably spent some time on a massive container ship. And here's the thing,
Without the financial security that the Inchamaree clause provides, the risk of operating these multi-million-dollar vessels would just be way too high for anyone to take on. This one little clause lets ship owners manage those risks, which in turn makes sure that that $14 trillion river of stuff keeps flowing smoothly across the globe, right to us. So what's the big takeaway from all this? First, a tiny, almost boring event, a single stuck valve, can force a complete rethink of an entire industry. It's crazy. Second, it really shows how insurance isn't just some static thing. It's always evolving to meet new challenges. And maybe most importantly, this obscure clause with a funny name is like a quiet guardian of the modern world, protecting the very supply chains that bring the world to your front door. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to think about. As we move into this new era of AI-piloted, totally autonomous cargo ships, what new, unforeseen risks are going to pop up? I mean, what happens when it's not a cruise mistake, but a software glitch that causes a disaster? The story of the Inchamaree is a great reminder that progress always creates new problems, and we're definitely going to need a whole new set of rules to solve them.